Now let's use some of those postulates and theorems to do these examples. For numbers 1 through 5, use the diagram and given information to determine which lines are parallel. So notice, we're looking to determine which lines are parallel. They did not already tell us that any of these lines in the picture are parallel. State the reason, that would be the postulate or theorem, used to make that determination. Number 1, angle 3 is congruent to angle 16. Let's go find in the picture angle 3 and angle 16 and mark them with the angle marks. Now, this picture is very busy, so it might be helpful to grab a piece of paper or something to cover up part of the picture that we don't need. If I cover up line Q, I've covered up angle 16, so that's not a good one to cover up. If I cover up line L, see it's labeled line L, I cover up both angles, so again, not a good one to cover up. Let's move this piece of paper over here, and I'm going to cover up line M, and that's the line to cover up because I still see angle 3 and angle 16. So either with my highlighter or my color pencil, I'm going to trace over the two lines that look like they might be parallel in the picture. It looks like N and Q, with L being the transversal. Now they said that angle 3 is congruent to angle 16. Well, first let's determine what kind of angles these look like compared to each other. Notice that if these are the two lines, whether they are parallel or not, they are not between the lines. Angle 3 and 16 are outside of the line, so these are exterior. And if line L is the transversal, angle 3 and 16 are alternating sides. Angle 3 is to the left of line L, angle 16 is to the right of line L. So these are alternate exterior angles. Let's take a moment to write that down, that these are alternate exterior angles. Now, alternate exterior angles are supposed to be congruent when the lines are parallel. So these two lines, N and Q, will be parallel since alternate exterior angles are congruent. So this would give us, for which lines are parallel, that N is parallel to Q. And our reason is our alternate exterior angles converse, because it's helping us determine that the lines are parallel. Now, you can either erase what we did or just get a different color pencil or highlighter out to do the next question. Let's look at number 2. Measure of angle 6 plus measure of angle 7 equals 180 degrees. Let's go find, here's angle 6 and here's angle 7. Now, they did not say these angles are congruent, so I shouldn't be putting the same kind of angle marks. I'll make them different. They said these two angles add up to 180 degrees. Well, first let's determine what kind of angles these are. I'm going to get my piece of paper to cover up the lines I don't need. I won't put it there, it covers up angle 6. Looks like I should put it here, covering up line Q, because line Q doesn't make either of these angles. So here I still see angle 6 and angle 7, and I'm going to trace over the lines that may or may not be parallel, line M and line L, with line N being the transversal. Now notice the two lines being crossed by the transversal. Inside, in between those lines, is angles 6 and 7. So these are interior angles. And because here's the transversal, these are on the same side of the transversal. So these are consecutive or same side interior angles. Let's write that down. Consecutive or same side interior. And what do we remember about consecutive interior angles? If the lines are parallel, these angles are supposed to be supplementary, and that's what this tells us. Therefore, line M and L are parallel. M is parallel to L. The reason? Consecutive interior angles converse. Let's take a look at number 3. Again, you may want to erase what we did before or get a different color pencil or highlighter out. Number 3, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 9 equals 180 degrees. So the measure of angle 1, here's angle 1, and the measure of angle 9, here's angle 9. Let's first determine what kind of angles these are. Get my piece of paper, find the line I need to cover up, and there it is. I'll cover up line L because it has nothing to do with these angles in my picture. Then I'll trace over the lines that may or may not be parallel. This line and this line. These are the lines that may or may not be parallel. I notice in this intersection, this is at the top, so is angle 9. Therefore, these are corresponding angles. Well, remember our corresponding angle postulate tells us that the lines, when they're parallel, the angles are congruent. But that's not what this says. They're not telling us the angles are congruent, they're telling us the angles are supplementary. So we do not have enough information to determine if the lines are parallel. Therefore, we will write none, because corresponding angles are supposed to be congruent, not supplementary. Let's look at another one. Angle 4 and angle 10. Here is angle 4 and here is angle 10. Let's see which line I can cover up. Try to cover up line Q. Nope, that covers up angle 10. I'll try to cover up line L. That covers up the other angle. I'll try to cover up line N. Nope, that doesn't work. How about I'll move over here and try to cover up line M. Nope, there is no line that I can cover up and still see both angles 4 and 10. I cannot have 4 lines in my picture. I'm supposed to have 2 lines and a transversal. So these angles are no special pair, and again, I have none that can be determined parallel for these angles being congruent. Let's try another one, angles 1 and 6. Here's angle 1, and here's angle 6. These angles are right across from each other in the same intersection. These are vertical angles. Let's see what we can cover up in this picture. Line L, I can cover that line up, but it looks like I can also cover up this line, line Q, and I still see both angles. Now I have just 2 lines left and they're intersecting. So again, I have to say that nothing can be determined by saying angles 1 and 6 are congruent. Of course they're congruent, they're vertical angles, but that doesn't tell me that lines are parallel. Let's look at some different examples. Solve for x. State the reason, the postulate or theorem that we use. Look at these 2 angles. Where are they? Inside the parallel lines. I can say parallel because that's indicated here. Parallel. So if these lines are parallel and I have, what are these called? That's right, consecutive interior angles. So because they're parallel, by the consecutive interior angles theorem, because I used parallel first, so by the consecutive interior angles theorem, these 2 angles have to be supplementary. That means add up to 180. So I can say 3x plus 120 equals 180. And then I can solve that equation. So let's do it. Minus 120 and 3x equals 60. Divide by 3 and x equals 20. Not so bad, right? I have one more for you. Find the value of x, that's our goal, that makes line A parallel with line B. State the reason, postulate or theorem. So this time, let's look at these angles. This angle here and this angle here. What's true about these? They are alternate exterior angles. The alternate exterior angles theorem tells us that when the lines are parallel, these angles have to be what? That's right, congruent. Well, they didn't tell me the lines are parallel. I'm making the lines parallel. So I have to make these congruent. What does congruent mean? The same. So 2x minus 120 must equal x. And we can solve from there. I like to get my x's together first. So maybe minus 2x on both sides. And then negative 120 equals negative x. Divide by negative 1. And 120 equals x. But I prefer to write x equals 120. And you've done it.